Jonathan Bush, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So you are a healthcare technology executive. You're the co-founder of Athena Health, the founder of Zeus Health. You live in Cape Elizabeth, you're married, you have 7 kids. Tell us a little bit more about you and why you're running for governor.
Well, you got the big blocks there. I'm a fanatic Maine optimist. I was able to have the privilege of employing and working in Maine. I got up to about 950 employees, and also had employees in the other 49 states. And there's no question in my mind that Mainers are grittier, more resilient, funnier, better at taking what life throws at them, which in a dynamic economy with a lot of automation is a critical ability. And it was devastating to see the degree to which that incredible talent is suffocating here, as your own coverage showed with our flat and lacking economic growth. So that's a big thing about me. And another one is I like running towards fires. You know, my first job, I actually drove an ambulance from 6 at night to 6 in the morning in New Orleans in 1990, which is a time when New Orleans was the most violent city in the country. And, you know, it was dangerous and it was nasty, a lot of blood and other fluids being squeegeed out of the ambulance by leftover sheets. But the people who do that work get to be the ones who go into a place where our family is having the worst possible night they could have ever imagined and do something about it, do something consequential. You know, we have a lot of virtue signaling and other energies on social media that are probably a lot of it from a good place. If I want to be useful, I want to be helpful, I want these lives to matter or this movement to happen. But to go in and actually lay your hands into the mess and do something is incredibly satisfying. And my life's been about finding the next, you know, fire to run towards, whether it was, I joined the Army and what was Operation, I guess, Desert Storm at the time. I helped try to save a dying birth center. It was my first attempt at business. I didn't save the birth center, but I built Athena out of the challenge. And now I think the fire is coming from Augusta. I really do believe that.
Yeah, so I want to talk about some of your priorities if you were governor.
You bet.
I know you've talked a lot about like shrinking Augusta.
Shrink Augusta.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What exactly does that mean?
Well, obviously, the state budget has doubled, or take out inflation, call it 65% increase over one administration. That is astonishing when you look at the growth. That again, Maine Public did a nice job covering the lack of growth in Maine. And in fact, it's worse than that. It's that the expansion of Augusta, both in terms of the regulatory presence in every decision that every small business makes, as well as the sucking sound of the money out of the economy and into the government, has suffocated the economy, has actually made the American dream not credible. It seems in Maine that we now export more young people than lobsters, honestly. And that's got to change. So the number one priority has got to be to pull back the bloat.
So is that just a matter of cutting the budget, or how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you take over a company, there's sort of 4 questions you ask. You know, one is, do we need this function anymore? Probably came for a good place. We probably started it with the best of intentions, but in the relative scheme of everything else we're dealing with, do we need to keep doing this, in this case, at the state level? Is it duplicated? One of the things you find in Maine is there are lots and lots of duplicated processes between the state and the city or the town. Lots of the same questions, but being reviewed by 2 different people on 2 different schedules. It's just astonishing the amount of delay and cost that it inflicts on critical functions like the ability to build a house, the ability to build a business, things that we then live in and live on. So that's the second test. The third test is, can it be automated? You know, is it being done manually? It could be done automated or remotely instead of in person. Again, everywhere I look in Augusta, it's like the internet's just arriving to Augusta. If you want to know what computers looked like when Jimmy Carter was president, go to Augusta. And from my world, which was, you know, sort of right on the leading edge of AI and machine learning and the internet, I just can't believe that that's normal there. And so that'd be the third test, is can we automate these things? And I've got a lot of folks that would like to do that. And then the last test is always, you know, are we allowing good judgment? Are we allowing people to make decisions, or are they so strapped in by process that obvious decisions don't get made quickly, but instead get run up many, many flagpoles? And I think we fail almost all 4 of those tests in a lot of functions across Augusta, and that'll be the top priority once we get our taxes down.
Yeah. Do you have a few other priorities that you might talk about?
Yeah.
I mean, I know, people are constantly talking about the affordability crisis, how expensive housing is. What are a few other things that are top priorities for you?
Well, shrink Augusta and cut taxes. So I think that we just went from, I guess we were about the 5th highest tax load in the United States. And then just recently in the last legislative session, we moved ourselves to the 3rd highest. We don't have a Silicon Valley or a Wall Street to milk. We don't have any major sort of massively profitable sectors. We've got sectors that are wonderful and marvelous and we're proud of them, but they are not massively profitable where they could pay huge taxes and still not, mind, not leave. And so that's just absolute self-inflicted, just gunshot wounds to the foot. So that's the other thing that has to happen right away. But then I think, our superpower is that we're a really good neighbor state. We're neighbors-ish, next town over. But people call back in Maine. People respond quickly. Even people who can't stand me call me right back. Hey, I can't stand you, Johnny. What do you want? That leads to the possibility of being the best state in America to build a small business. We're a small business state. Culturally, we have 137,000 registered businesses in a little tiny state like ours. I believe that's more than any other state per capita except Florida. We are the 46th best, 4th worst business climate, but could we quickly become, at least for small businesses, the best climate? Could it be instantaneous to start one? Could we change the function and the review so that we encourage, in fact, just delegate to really small businesses full authority, at least to the point where they get going? Those are things that only Maine can do, or that Maine is uniquely positioned to do, that I'd love to do a lot of once we get the cutting done. And the cutting is the first and foremost priority.
So obviously you're part of a very famous political family,
Yeah.
and I'm curious how that has been received on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
How are people responding to you're a Bush and everything that goes with that?
Yeah, everybody's got an uncle. Some people are like their uncles, different from their uncles. For me, it's really important in this campaign for Mainers to get to meet me. I come from a different dad with a different set of values, different mom, different role of Maine in my life, different role of being outspoken. So I think it's important that Mainers will have to get to know me. I do have the same grandmother as George W., and she did say there's a little bell that rings in the back of your head when you start to talk yourself into doing something you shouldn't do. And I have that bell, and I think the next governor should have that bell. And so I'm very proud of the Bushes and the role they've had on my development as a person, as a business person, as a citizen. But I have a different agenda. I have a different style. So I hope anybody who's watching who happens to be a Republican, there must be 3 Republicans watching this. You guys make sure you meet me, okay?
So I think at one of the debates you were at, you were asked about your thoughts on Donald Trump, and how do you see yourself working with the president in your future administration? Like, are there things you agree on, things you disagree on? What are your
Yes,
thoughts
indeed.
there?
There's things I agree on and disagree on with this president, have with every president in my life. I don't know anybody who's sort of 100% agree with everything. I mean, I'm sure there are some. But I think it's very exciting, the idea of being able to work with this administration for a couple of years before it moves on. You can't build your whole administration on that, because if you're going to be governor for 4 or 8 years, you can have Donald Trump for 2. But for example, we are now 1 in every 3 Mainers on Medicaid, Maine Care we call it here. Maine Care, Medicaid, is designed in a way that is terrible for rural healthcare development. It's very hard to get virtual first healthcare. We should be a virtual first healthcare state. This administration, the folks I know in the CMS, Dr. Oz, who has a house in Maine, comes up, loves Maine, these guys would give us delegated authority to run Maine Care in a more digital and virtual way, which would dramatically improve access to primary care and dramatically reduce the cost that we pay per Mainer on it. I think we probably have too many Mainers on it, and that's another topic that we don't need the president for. But that's one of many examples. Transportation funding, all kinds of things with a little bit of flexibility. And with Susan Collins running appropriations, We can run things much more effectively if the feds will give us flexibility. And this government, this particular administration is down for that kind of thing.
So there's definitely areas where you would be able to
Cooperate,
find agreement
for
with
sure.
them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to ask about the 5-year residency.
Yes, you wrote that article. How'd it come out?
I think it came out pretty good, but I wanted to
Good.
give you an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you bought your house in Cape Elizabeth in late 2020.
Right?
I know the Cutlers didn't move out right away, the people that lived there before, and then there was some construction.
Yeah.
So when did you actually move to Maine?
So I've been a part-time Mainer, living in Maine part-time for 57 years, one part of every single year of my life. That got bigger in 2007 when I opened a business operation up in Mid-Coast, Maine. This is multiple months every year for, 7 to 21. And then, of course, as you say, we moved into Cape Elizabeth 5 years ago. So I think the rule is 5 years, so I'm miles over it.
And I think last question, obviously it's a very crowded primary race.
Yeah.
I think there's 7
I
candidates.
think there's like 9 guys not running for something right now.
Yeah. What do you think makes you different or like puts you at an advantage to the other compared to the other candidates?
I tell voters, look, these are all good guys. They all care. They're all genuinely interested in seeing Maine do better. Similar ideas. They all think taxes are too high, at least on the Republican side. I know the Democrat, we just saw one of them actually want to double down on the new tax and double it, literally double it, not just double down theoretically, but actually double it. I think we need an outsider this time around. I think that Augusta has almost become a virus. We call it the Augusta virus around our team. You know, it's just this group that there's this patron-client network where everybody's owed something and has done a favor for someone and really needs a favor from someone else. And so they just can't untangle. They can't do the cutting that's necessary without hurting friends. And I think this cutting is badly needed, and so I think an outsider. The other thing is I think it should be a CEO. There are people that are running that are great public service-oriented people that have just not actually had much in the way of serious operational leadership responsibility. I've had, significantly more than any of the other candidates, 6,500 employees managing $30 billion of healthcare collections across 116,000 doctors, helping tens of thousands of small businesses survive healthcare's bureaucracy. That's as close to a governor role as you can get, and certainly much closer than any of the other candidates running. So that's my angle on it. The other guys are great for lots of other reasons, but that's mine.
We do have to wrap up soon. Is there anything I haven't?
I thought we were just getting started.
I know.
Just getting warmed up.
15 minutes goes by so fast. Is there anything else I haven't asked about that you would want people to know about you?
Well, I think when we're done cutting, I think there is a lack of belief that when you cut back Augusta, other things will grow there. And I really believe deeply in the resilient, flexible talent of Maine, of Maine's economy, of Maine's people. And I really believe that what we'll see, if we cut back this state-forced character, the unforced, organic players that will fill that space will be vastly better and will be vastly more connected to us and to our neighbors and to our economic destiny. And we will stop exporting more kids than lobsters.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
It was a privilege to be here. Thank you.